Hi. Uh, I unfortunately couldn't be here on the first day of the conference, but I've been told they've been extremely successful and prolonged until late evenings. So I especially appreciate that all of you got up so early to be here today. My name is Jakub Duda. I am co-founder of Incuvo. This is a small gaming startup here in Katowice. I'm also a gamer, a software engineer, a bit of a project manager, and finally running the startup I call myself entrepreneur. And today, as you've seen on the previous slide, I'd like to talk about our project Createrria to discuss the idea of creating games on smart devices. So, that was the introduction. First, I'd like to discuss a little bit about the evolution of mobile devices that led us to call them smart now. This will bring us to the ideas behind Createrria and some other projects now that try to bring users, not developers, to creating games directly on devices. Then I would like to talk a little bit about challenges and design problems we encountered on the way, about our future plans, and finally, if you find it interesting, I would encourage you to try a live demo and create your own games. So, Incuvo is a small startup in Katowice, established at the beginning of 2012. Right now, 13 people, 5 software engineers, 3 artists, 2 designers. The core team has been working together now for over 5 years. Previously, we've worked at City Interactive office in Katowice. What's important, we do all the stuff here on site, so the technical development, design, and art is created within Incuvo. And we've been founded with EU seed funds and venture capital funds. Okay, but let's go to the important part. First, as this conference tell us about smart devices, I would like to give you a brief summary of the things you probably already know, but still are, for me at least, interesting to see how everything has evolved to bring us to the place when we are no longer happy just to take calls on our phone, but we want to create various things with them. We used to call, just a few years ago, we used to call a smart device something that was able to open Office documents, send email, or give us a calendar. And this was a business tool mostly used for work. A long time has passed, at least in this space, it's a long time. And now the smart devices are far more free time oriented. We use them as leisure devices. Okay, we still pretend that we use them mostly for work, but in fact, we probably spend much more time making photos, videos, using them as sport trackers, or just for social networking. And still, there are plenty of undiscovered possibilities. Each month, each quarter, each year, there are new interesting apps, new interesting possibilities. Something that's, for me at least, probably the best thing I discovered this year is the idea of connected devices, connected homes. There is this crazy startup, if this then that, collected about 10 or more millions of dollars just to bring a simple if statement to the web. So if I get an email, I will light a bulb for you. You have a web interface for this, a mobile app, and this is one of the hottest startups in Silicon Valley this year. There is Lyft. Suddenly the most important thing to call a cab in San Francisco is a mobile phone. And all these guys do it as volunteers, as a secondary job. And suddenly a cab company can be a technological startup based on smart devices. And besides this, the creative apps are on the rise. Instagram, you must have heard about it. Vine, the new project from Twitter, you also probably heard about it. So now we are not just going to post photos of cats. Now there we will have a 6-second videos of cats. And there is even a virtual pottery application. I wonder, is there anybody from Infinite Dreams here? But you might have seen the application. It's made by our friends in Gliwice, Infinite Dreams, great company. So it shows that if you have an idea, you can do almost anything on the device. And the big change factor is the screen size. Our phones are now bigger, and with tablets, everything changes. We have a bridge between a small device and a computer, and still it's mobile, we call it smart, and we get new possibilities. So, people love to create on smart devices. And the most popular type of apps are games. The second most popular is social apps, so all the smart users we talk about is like 5% of all the stuff we use our devices for. And this is the question we asked ourselves when we started the company. Why, if we can create pottery, if we can create videos, if we can create great music, you might have seen GarageBand, iMovie. I am not a fanboy, but in this field, Apple is a little before Android. So we asked ourselves why we do not create games. We've checked what's going on, and we noticed that although there are plenty of apps that promise us this, they are usually not easy or not high quality, or simply they are developer apps, just cloud dressed up as user apps. I guess at least some of you are developers, so it's not a bad thing for you to write a line of code or two, but still for casual users, this is probably a no-go situation. So, at this point I wanted to show you how our idea became live. So, as you see, you can create a simple casual 2D game directly on the device in just a few minutes, and it doesn't require any technical skills, any art skills, just idea and some creativity. So yes, this was our team. We cannot afford actors for the trailer. when we went to the investors, to the market with this, the first question we were asked is there a need for this? If you don't have a direct competition, if there is no good app for this, so maybe there is no need. This is a funny thing about the technological market. Everybody wants to be innovative, but still they immediately need something to compare you to understand exactly what you're doing. So we have looked at what's available, and if you're gamers, you probably know Little Big Planet. This is something a bit similar to Createrria, but made for Sony consoles. Great game, I'm a fan myself, and forget about the sales data. The important thing is that their users have created over 8 million games within Little Big Planet. And the thing that is actually available for mobile now is Minecraft. I actually lost count at one point. I stopped updating the data because it grows up every month. So this showed us that if we give it to people in the right way, there's a really, really big need to do a creation, to create their own games or interactive apps or bedtime stories or just simply play with a physics sandbox. But of course it wasn't easy. This part may be the most interesting for you. I wanted to show and discuss some challenges we got when we started designing the application. So the first problem is the scale. When I grew up, it wasn't unusual for a one person to do a great game. I think that Pac-Man was coded alone by a single person or a 2 or 3 people team, but I think it was a single person. But still, this had to probably be the best, the brightest engineers of the time to handle all the knowledge and all the skills necessary to create the game. Nowadays, the funny thing is that probably most of the AAA games have budgets bigger than most of Polish movies. It's not unusual to have a team of over 100 people working at City Interactive in Katowice. We've run a team of over 40 people working on single game. So this is one of the things you need to face when you think about creating games. Of course, you might say there is still a great indie scene when small groups or single people create games, but the barrier of skills still exists. And it depends on the opinion. For me not, but a lot of people believe that the programming is the most difficult part of creating a game. There are at least several ways to think about it. You can code an entire game in a typical programming language. It depends on the opinion whether you are at the C# level, what would you still call a real programming language. Then there is scripting. There are a lot of possibilities now with just scripting your game. Stuff like Game Salad tries to do this. And finally, you can visually edit the logic for the game. But I've tried this, and being a programmer, I drop it after five minutes. So it's probably the worst solution. No fun of actually coding, and still dragging a visual representation of a language command has nothing to do with being easy or fun. There's an interesting project called Stencil being developed on the PC that tries this approach. They made many great things with the UI, with the creation flow, but still visual code editing didn't win my vote. So just ask yourself, is any of this actually possible or interesting to a casual users. We decided that if we go into any of these options, even visual code editing, that would be a first showstopper. So decided to have a completely different approach. With our editor, we provide you ready logic based on the context of what you are creating. So, if you're putting a slingshot into your game, you are probably closer to an Angry Birds type of creation than a platformer. If you are putting a character there, that could also be that could probably be a platformer or an always run game. If you don't have anything, you will just get the physics sandbox and all the fun you can get of building some huge bridge construction, some huge constructions and destroy them. And as the screenshot shows you, this already gives you a lot of possibilities because you can create various hybrid stuff. Nothing prevents you from having a physics sandbox that would combine both slingshot and a character in a totally hybrid type of game. And having this and giving this to users, it's quite easy for us to actually extend it with a functionality that would be quite similar to at least scripting the game. Because then we can have first item properties and then allow actually scripting of these properties. Okay. Art. As I said before, for me, programming is not the most difficult part. I simply cannot draw. I can code, but you don't want to see me drawing. And we found out that this is the case of most users, and this is why a lot of user-created games, I'm not talking about indie scene here because I've seen amazing stuff there, but a lot of user-created games have the problem of, let's say, looking poor. And the first impression we get when we see a game, it's usually the impression of the visuals. So again, we decided that for a starter, we need to provide ready graphic themes, characters and items. There is a hidden trap in this approach because we at this point determine how the creation of will look, and it's easy to fall for a trap of being just a level editor for a single game. We try to tackle this in two ways. First, we decided to go for several very different graphic themes. We have this sweet mainstream candy theme. We have a bit of indie Japanese cartoon with Loco-Roco-like theme. We have dark Fable graphics, and of course, we have a retro pixel theme. And it won't be a big secret if I tell you that there are already plenty of new themes in the works. So we believe that this approach, and finally, giving users possibility to customize the graphic they are using in the game, will create a really huge potential for the visual side. And this is also a great way to bridge with all the smart possibilities of new devices. We have great painting apps. We have stronger and stronger cameras. So if we allow you to import stuff, the possibilities are almost as with the professional graphic creation pipeline. Again, there is a small hidden catch. That's why we didn't enable it for the very start. If we allow user to add his own graphics, let's just say that some users will not put there the appropriate stuff. So we need to have a good filtering mechanism. We are looking how Kinect did it for their user-generated content. So just from the technical side, this is a great challenge to implement some kind of automatic content filtering system based on graphic recognition or image recognition. Okay. Sound. This is a quick slide. Situation is similar to art. Again, I personally cannot create sounds on a scale even bigger that I cannot create art. So this is often this happens often even for big games. We provide a kind of a soundtrack for the game, and then again we want to bridge it with the possibilities of modern smart devices. First choice would be to allow you to use your iTunes library for the soundtrack. It would be really interesting to talk with guys from Spotify or Deezer to link some kind of a music sharing tool into the game, so we could actually share the music we chose for the game with different users. So what we have now is, let's say, standard, but the future for sound looks quite exciting. Okay. And the last thing I wanted to discuss in this section is publishing. You might not know much about console publishing, but believe me, it's a nightmare. This nightmare has a reason. It was created in the 80s after the whole market totally collapsed under the weight of crappy games. You probably heard about the hundreds of thousands of ET games that are buried somewhere in the desert in the US. Just because they were so crappy, nobody bought it, and the entire company collapsed. So because of that, high quality standards were implemented. Then these standards actually are harder to implement than sometimes making the entire game. I remember spending 6 months trying to get a single game that was finished, pushed through a console developer. This has seriously changed with mobile publishing. One of the things that companies like Google or Apple used to win over the traditional console model is the easiness of publishing your game. It's just a matter of creating an account, paying a few $100s, on the contrary to paying 20,000 that was what was needed to get a dev kit for Nintendo. So for me as a publisher, this is a quite easy and straightforward process. But still, it is targeted at developers, not users. For a typical user, again, this would be a no-go situation. And finally, let's just say that Apple is not the most open company in the world. So they are basically not allowing users to publish the stuff to their app store without having a developer account and going throughout the certification and development process. It's a bit different on the Android, so we are looking at the possibilities there. But at this point, we decided to have a completely different approach. We built a sharing platform into the application. Again, this is a fascinating technical challenge that you typically do not find in the game development, to implement the whole cloud backend that would allow different devices to communicate and share the content. But let's skip it for a second. In-app cloud-based YouTube-like community. Anything you can create, you can immediately publish to your friends. If they like your creations, they will follow you in an Instagram style. And this also determines the model which we use as a drive for our users. We don't want Createrria to be an app for earning money, because if you do it, usually it will dominate all the other users for the app. and probably there'll be some people in Asia that will use it to grind money. So we decided that this is entirely a leisure activity, the same way you share your Instagram photos, you share your cat videos on YouTube. So you create something, you get funds, and all the rewards you get are within the game, within the virtual currency of the game. We also decided to bridge our community with social network. It's not the wisest and cheapest decision nowadays to create your own social network, so we decided to bridge it to Facebook, to Twitter, and possibly in the future to more sites. So, where are we now? The project in its initial version is finished. A month ago, we have launched it in Canada and Australia. This is a test market for us. We are preparing for a global release in about 1 month. The great thing that kind of verified the ideas, the assumptions we made before, is that our community is 97% of casual players, and 40% of these people are not only players, but also creators. You might say that 40% is not too much, but on the typical user-generated content networks like YouTube, it's about 1 to 5%. This is a typical ratio of consumers versus creators. We've had 3,000 simple games created in 4 weeks within a very small community. We are now on our way to global release. iOS goes first, but since we're using Unity engine, Android will follow shortly after, and hopefully more platforms. Again, great thing for me is that we can give users cross-platform content sharing. Anything you create on your iPhone can be immediately played on the Android tablet or any other platform you'll go to. And this is just a beginning of the road. We think of it as a service, and so if you find this talk interesting, I hope to be able to join you next year and tell a little bit more about what we have done after this point. So now I'd like to show you a few samples of the actual gameplay. But first, let's start with a reference. You might have seen this video before. And now a similar video from Createrria. one more example to just to show a diversity of what can be created. And all this is actually created on an iPad. Depending on the scale of complexity, it would take between a few minutes and maybe a few hours for the complex things to be created. One of the best things that happened for us during the development was that we entirely skipped external editor for all the content that we are making. After the first technical demo, we decided that what we have is good enough, that all the content that company is publishing on the site is entirely created on iPads and iPhones. Okay, so that's basically it for today. Now, if you have any questions, I would be gladly answer them. Or if some of you would like to try Createrria live demo, I'll invite you to create your own games.
Can you create vehicles?
This is a very good question. We already have some simple vehicles. One of the first editor creations that we decided one of the first user creations that we decided to give editor's choice to was a tank that used accelerators and lifts to actually shoot bullets. There is still plenty of more to be done. We need to add joints to various elements. You will hear this answer a lot probably if you ask more questions. It's on our roadmap to create great vehicles. Of course, we're playing Bad Piggies, and this is something that could easily be done within Createrria. We basically have to. One of the things I was personally disappointed with looking at some of the competitor games, that with Little Big Planet I was thrown in a great application with entirely blank screen, and I needed to spend hours trying to figure out what to do. We decided to do two things. First, we have a quite simple tutorial that just introduces you to the basic concepts of playing and creation. You're welcome to try it in a second. And then we created a special mode we call creation challenges. Using comparisons, it's like incredible machine for platformers. You have a set of levels with a lot of items already placed, and you just need to add some items to complete the level, to go from point A to point B or destroy enemies or whatever is the goal. So this way, we are step by step teaching you how to use each of the elements, and then you, at least I hope, you should have some fun completing the challenges.
Questions with microphone only. Are there any? Yeah.
Are you going to share some parts of the source code to the programmers? So maybe they will be able to come with their own plugins or libraries. I don't know, for the sports game, for different camera angles and some things like this.
The idea is good, and we want to allow players to customize the logic in the future, but I'd say that the better approach for this would be to allow scripting of the actual elements. So this way we do not have any recompilation, republish stuff, etc., which would probably block the new extensions from being published by Apple or other mobile companies. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention. I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation. Now, if you'd like to create your own games, I invite you to the iPad and just try, have fun.